Good morning. Welcome back to Passionate World Radio Network. Happy New Year's, everybody. Distinguish yourself from the ordinary. And this morning on Lillian's interview, we are interviewing Miss Gowda about her book called The Golden Sun. And the Washington Post said that it triumphs because of its many pleasures and complications. And so it has. So good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Great to talk to you.
I am delighted to talk to you, too. I read your book, and I found it fascinating because it says exactly how people are treated from other countries, especially in the medical schools.
Right. The main character, his name is Anil Patel. He is the golden son of his family, which basically means he's the eldest son in his large Indian family. And he grows up with a lot of privileges and respect and expectations for the role that he's going to play when he becomes an adult. But he pursues his own ambition of becoming a doctor, and he moves to Dallas, Texas, from his small village in India to do his medical residency. And although it's his dream, he realizes that it's a lot more difficult and challenging, not only because of the difficulty of being an intern in a big hospital, but also he has many cultural complications coming from his home to a big urban American city.
And I can understand. My son went over to Thailand with the American Field Service. And he told me it was a culture shock to him because their manners and customs are very different between student and parent. And my son was very tall. He's over 6 feet. And yet he had to stoop down to be below the heads of the adults.
Right.
So he was telling us all about this. And he says, it's a good thing, Mom, you raised me the right way, because otherwise I would have had a lot of difficulty. And I suspect it is because the way men are reared in India is vastly different in some respects than the way they're reared here in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he has to face all of those challenges, in the context of an American hospital emergency room when he comes over here. I mean, he sees a lot of things he's never seen or experienced before, and it's challenging.
Now, one of the characters that he leaves back in India is a young girl who he does have an attachment to emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he cannot have her as a wife. Would you consider that also another type of immigration for him?
It's interesting. I think he faces a set of challenges in leaving his home country. But as you pointed out, there are also challenges if he were to go back or stay there. And that's one of them, is that, he has a childhood friend who's very dear to him. And he, at some point, when the two become adolescents, he's told that he can't really be friends with her anymore because it's inappropriate to have that type of relationship between, a woman from her family and a man from his. So he has to forsake that, and there are many compromises and sacrifices that he has to make. Back home with his family, because they keep calling him and giving him a guilt trip about the things that he should be doing back home, or that the role that they need him to play in the family and in the community. And so that's an ongoing struggle for him. Neither place really is totally comfortable or easy.
And so when he takes over the customs and the mannerisms of a Western doctor, then he's coming back to India as an immigrant to integrate himself back with his family and, of course, any type of liaisons that he wants to have in terms of romance over there as well.
Right. Yes, he does. So he meets an American girl, falls in love, and he has a whole other experience outside of the work challenges that he's facing as well, that there are cultural challenges with the young woman he falls in love with.
Now, what decided you to write a book about the subtle form of immigration of a man in India coming over to the United States, especially being a doctor, because becoming a doctor in the States is hard enough for regular citizens without being from another country and coming in?
Right. Well, I think I got very captured by the story of this young man. I had an image in my mind of a young man who was growing up in a really cherished position, and was expected to be, one of the roles that the eldest son in this family is expected to play is to be the arbiter of all the families and communities' disputes. So, I thought it would be interesting to watch a young man on the brink of adolescence who's thrust into this role of having to be wise and mature and make decisions for other people, in other people's lives before he's really old enough or mature enough to do it for himself. And then I thought if he were to choose to be a doctor where he's volunteering to make life and death decisions for other people, that would be a really interesting twist, where he would choose one type of life for himself and then be thrust into a different one, and have complications on both sides.
So could you please tell everybody where they can find your book and where they can find you on the World Wide Web?
Yes, my website is www.shilpigowda.com, which is SHILPIGOWDA, and the book can be found in bookstores, online, and at Target and Costco.
Great. And what would you say to writers who wanted to try to write something discussing such an enormous subject, but also such a delicate subject as immigration?
Well, I didn't really set out to write a book about, the theme of immigration as much as I had a character that I really loved and wanted to, be true to his story. So I think all good stories are stories about individuals, and then sometimes when we get to know that individual, as a reader, it can change our mind or open our eyes to, to some larger themes.
I agree. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Ms. Gowda, who wrote the book The Golden Son, is a best-selling author of The Secret Daughter. And you can listen to this interview all over again at PassionateWorldRadioNetwork.com, Twitter.com/CAULDWELL, Facebook.com/PWR Network LLC, and GooglePlus.com/PWR Network. And before you go away and stray, an anonymous man had this to say: a man must not swallow more beliefs than he can digest. Thank you all very much for listening, and remember, have a terrific year. Thank you.